Hi, everybody. My name is Jose Reyes. Today is November 1st. This is my third video journal, and it is about 10 p.m. Critical theory is a theory that scholars use to reveal how social and technological structures can serve to oppress others. Generally, what will happen is the interests of the dominant groups are elevated over the interests of the subordinate groups. And we can see this kind of like in a compensation plan where the employees are not forced, but they're encouraged to work longer hours, work harder, and sometimes even affect their personal lives and home lives in order to meet their sales goals. Yes, they're paid for it, but in reality, it's actually the dominant group that benefits from those numbers and those sales. Um, Power can be seen as the ability of imposing one's will upon someone else to change their behavior. Hegemony is where one group supports the interests, or where the subordinate group supports the interests of the dominant group, even if it's not in the best interests of the subordinate group. Conservative control is an environment based on adherence of socially constructed norms and values. And that's kind of where workers are given the opportunity to kind of manage themselves, but still worked by being confined to those values that the dominant group gives them. Um, Watching Emma Watson's video, I wasn't too familiar with what feminism actually was, but from what I heard of it, I guess it had kind of been painted to me in a negative light. What I took away from the video is that Emma Watson kind of describes it as not women bashing men, but a fight to where equal rights are for men and women. So it's not really, saying that women are better or anything like that, but it's saying that in the workplace and in in society, men and women should have equal rights. Uh, and then in workplace culture of fear, um, it is very important to really understand the culture of an organization. Um, exactly like that. Usually in a culture of fear, that means that like hazing is involved. Communication is not very welcome between a manager and an employee. So that's really not a healthy organization, and that's really going to play a negative role in how someone views their job or their career. Um, I noticed that some of the things that were in the article that said that the excuse that some people said is that's just the way it is, or it's a product of our environment. And that's really not something that justifies having a culture of fear. That's something that needs to change. Um, One thing that I noticed, or one thing that I really liked about Netflix is how they kind of put an emphasis on the actual employee versus the profit. So the subordinate group instead of the dominant group. Um, in most companies, you see where there's an emphasis on um, profits and the company and employees really working to increase profits for the company. Versus in Netflix, you see where employees are giving room for growth, and Netflix encourages employees to be creative and try to change the norm that we know with the norm that we've come to understand um, in normal business societies or business culture. Um, in the lesson learned case study, I saw that it seemed like a really unhealthy culture where communication is really bad amongst the leadership. And it's also really bad in how they communicate um, or communicate with their subordinate culture. So I really think they really need to evaluate that and change that as well. Um, I have been in a situation. Well, I think in all interviews, everyone has to paint themselves obviously in a positive light. You're not going to go in there and say what you're not good at. Um, I can't really remember an instance where I've misrepresented myself. Generally, I can't remember an instance because I kind of know what my skills and qualifications are. And I think someone would be more likely to misrepresent themselves in a job that they're really not suited for So I guess in my past experience, I've always known what I'm good at and what I can do. I have been hired by a company that misrepresented the position. I worked in a sales job in a call center before, and they said I was going to be doing sales, and I would get X amount of sales per day, and my commission would be this and this and this. But at the end of the day, I really wasn't doing that. I was dealing with more complaints and more unsatisfied customers. So I feel that was misrepresented in the job description. And of course, I don't work there anymore. So that kind of shows how that worked out. Um, let's see here. I understand it's a tough job market, so a lot of times people try to apply for jobs that they're really not suited for, only because they may want more money or they want to grow or just not happy where they're at. So that's usually why somebody would embellish their application. Let's see here. Now, I have a very common name with Jose Reyes. So if you Google me, you might find about 200 Jose Reyes within the Houston area. So really, I didn't really find anything on myself, which is not too bad because I honestly just have like a Facebook and I really don't post on it, so it's not too bad. Let's see here. I didn't see anything about Bell South. So I really can't comment on that. In question 11, the case study, I see that the management is kind of portrayed in a negative light. Um, so I would say my question would be like, how do you address this in a professional manner? Like, how would you speak to your supervisor and say, hey, this needs to change in a professional manner? Let's see here. And a superior might engage in strategic ambu, yeah, okay, sorry. Um, okay, sorry. So a superior might do this because sometimes an employee might take it as criticism or might say that they're being blamed for something when that's not the way it is. And a subordinate might say it because they don't want to be blamed. Or they think that if they give bad news, they're going to say, oh, it's my fault. Usually what I do when I mess up at work, because I do mess up at work, I say, yes, I did this wrong, but I'm going to fix it in this way. Let's see here. Trust is essential in a relationship with a subordinate. Myself, I've been working with my manager for about 2 years, and I trust them to always have my back in the event of something happening. And I know that they trust me to where if I'm doing something wrong or they do something wrong, that I'll discuss it with them in a professional manner. Thank you. Bye-bye.